Hi, I'm Emily with TBM Labs, and we're here to present our product, Continuum, Fixing Fragmented Care. Let me begin by telling you about Billy. Billy has autism. Billy goes to speech therapy, occupational therapy, applied behavioral analysis therapy, and school. That's a lot to keep up with. Who do you think is the go-between? If you guessed Billy's parents, you'd be right. So, what's the problem? How do you connect these three groups? School, home, clinic. They don't have the same needs, do they? What do we need to do this for? You see, with child development, everything needs to be in sync. It all needs to move up and fill up your cup at the exact same speed at the same time. It all needs to go together. But with autism, it can go a little slower or a little faster. So that's where we come in. Continuum helps you to bridge the gaps. It helps connect everyone and put them on the same page. And this is key so that everyone knows how to help Billy. How do we do that with three unique users? Well, with the school and parent side, they're paying for a tracking app or either a journal out of their own pockets. They don't need to do that. With clinics, they need more revenue. They need more time. We help them with that with caregiver training that's automated and remote therapeutic monitoring. So what's the magic behind this? It takes 10 minutes or less a day. You have 24/7 support. You've got those extra billable events like we were talking about for the clinics. And everyone's on the same page. You get collaborative care. What do our features look like? Definitely need to be HIPAA compliant. You've got software as a medical device that helps with remote therapeutic monitoring. You've got telehealth, those binder and journal features that we talked about. And then if you have all of these groups together, you have a unique opportunity for insights and care. What's the market look like? With each of these therapies, you have about $1 billion in SOM. If you add all of them up, the TAM globally is about 72 billion. That's a pretty big market. Why is this important? Statistically speaking, you have about 1% of the population globally with autism or ADHD. So where are we at? Right now we're testing out our product. We're testing out each of the insurance and how do they respond with our pilots in the clinics. Next up, in Q2 to Q3 of next year, we'll be running a school pilot. We'll be preparing for our clinical trials so that we can go to market in France. And we'll be preparing all of the rollout for remote therapeutic monitoring. So who's doing this? I'm Emily. I'm the CEO. I'm the industry insight and operations side of things. You could say my superpower is in planning. Then we've got Ariel. He's our CTO, and he is our Mensa mind behind everything tech. Next up, you have Niels. Niels is our CEO over in France. He's our fine details. He's our critical eye that helps us go, have we looked into that? Next up, you have Steven, our CPO. He's always ready with a story or, hey, have you thought about this? So really, it's that knowledge that helps us out with Steven. With our consultants, we can't forget them. They help us out with sales. Scott has been invaluable with guiding us for go-to-market. Next up, you have Diane. Everything you see, Diane has helped us look good, and she's helped design our UX for our product. Then you have Christina. Christina has helped us out with everything we need to say, hey, what are we missing in schools? And then, of course, we can't forget Anna, our intern from Penn State. We're really lucky to have her. And then, really, we should have started with Dr. Burge. We wouldn't have been here without him. A few years ago, he said, hey, I don't know of anyone looking into this. You need to try it out. You need to see where this goes. I'd be willing to do a trial. And here we are today. So what have we done? We're working with 3 clinics, which eventually gives us access to about 5,000 patients through either their national franchise or their large clinic operations. That leads us to about 15,000 users, because right now we have each user about 3 people associated with them on the platform. We have 2 universities, one that's going to lead to a clinical study and one that's already doing a case study plan for next year. We've worked with 3 accelerators, and that adds to our growing network. So what do we need? Just like Billy, we need funds to help us develop and grow. So we're seeking a $500,000 seed round. What can you do today? So remember that 1% population with autism or ADHD? Think about the people you know. Could you tell a friend about this? Could you help a parent with their child? Because remember, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to keep up with for those parents. So reach out, tell your friends, or give us a call. We're up for investment. Help us help all the Billies out there. Thank you.
Great work. I'm going to suggest, I'm just going to kind of get to the point. I think you can like reorder and consolidate. So I'm going to be very like mechanical, tactical on the pitch. So for me, like great opener, the Billy example, like nailed the dive there. So for others looking at that, that's how you start. I would rather you go like, here's Billy, here's Billy's world, so we can all get our heads around it. I think from there you go like, this is our product. This is what it does. Actually show Billy and his parents or his mom or his dad or his primary care, like just 3-4 screens. You probably burned up 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes explaining an abstracted concept, which all you had to do is show us how the product would work. Even if it's like UX screens, like it doesn't have to be what you've already codified and is ready to go tomorrow, but just show us what the product's gonna do. And then your traction slide after that. So it's like, this is what we've built. This is how we're gaining traction, learning. Again, back to my point earlier, like I'm testing and learning constantly as an entrepreneur. What does that look like for you and why? What venues are you putting this thing to test and learn? And then team. I wouldn't read all the team names again, like, but if you had 20, 30 minutes at a pitch, of course you could do that. And then the ask. So it's like high level user experience / problem, user problem, lower level explanation, demonstration with product, how we're going to gain traction, team, ask. Like that's your 7-minute pitch right there.
With this the entire time, the complication has been around how complicated it is.
Yeah,
We're
that's okay.
supplying a service to a lot of different users. So you would think that the journey of, hey, this is Billy's day at each of his therapies, or this is Billy's week, a snapshot like that would probably be better than just the story about the background of Billy. And
I think you hit the background. Well, I would just say like, pick 1 or 2 problems. Like I understand your problem. Like my wife's a PsyD. Like I've got a special needs child. So like I'm like, oh yeah, got it, right? I've got whatever 24 years of this under my belt. But to pitch an investor, I think you need to kind of just show them, I don't know what to call it. Like your hypothesis is well stated up front about Billy and that market, and now it's like here are the 2 or 3 things that this product's going to do and why. And that's like why you're going to raise the first round of money, and then how complicated it is and how you're going to work on the market and gain traction. Like that's understood. That's part of the journey with the investor if you're taking investment money, is my view. So you don't have to have that answered, in my view. Okay. But it's about like the framework that you're presenting the investor that's most important. Like no investor, I don't think any investors expect you to have all the answers and figure it all out. So I love that part of like you dove into the pool perfectly, and then I was like, okay, let's go, let's keep going. Okay. Yeah, so just save time on that was my big. And then what was the one more thing I was going to say? Yeah, the market is interesting. Like if you mean 72 billion of money is spent on care, that's okay to say that, but explain like why that matters to me, because I'm still kind of like, okay, cool, but. Yeah, I was going to make a point, but I can't remember now. But it's one of those, like, to say there's a $72 billion market is interesting, but I was a little lost on why that's important, what that qualifies as for here. If there are ancillary services, if families are spending money on I don't know what to say, services to help manage this process? Like, is that your target? So I think you just need to be a little bit more refined. It felt like you were just kind of throwing a dart at, we got a big market here, and we're gonna crush it. One more thing, explain why France. I'm not saying you shouldn't be in France piloting. I have no idea why you would go there. So just put more context on that. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you explain your co-founder a little bit, but I was still a little bit lost there. Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to respond to France for the group? Because I had the same question. Then I'll give my feedback.
Sure. So it's not just because Niels is over there, but with the French market, it would open up all of Europe. And this service, as we showed up there with the global market, it's not just for the States. Everybody needs this. So in entering into France, obviously Niels is giving us access to that. But their market is a lot more predictable whenever it comes to what the reimbursement's going to be. So strategically, we looked at it and we said, do we start in France or do we start in the States first? Because we had both options available. We chose the States because the entry point is a lot easier. And then for France, we're more than likely going to need a clinical trial. They have a PACAN program for digital products to get into their healthcare system. But right now, with our research, it's still looking like we need a clinical trial. So that's 3 years. So it's more of a, hey, we've got big plans to go into Europe, but at the same time, it's a short speech. So how do you fit all of it in?
This is an unrealistic framework. That's part of the beauty of the 5 to 7 or 6 minute pitch now, is it forces you to like choose the things that you want to focus on, and then that's going to bring you more depth, I think, in the 30-minute context. But yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, Toby.
That helped. Was that?
Yeah.
Okay. Very helpful. Yeah.
So great job and terrific mission, right? What a great product and what a great area to help folks in.
Yeah.
A lot of different points. Some I agree, some even I disagree. So I'll go over a couple so you all get the whole spectrum. I'll start with a very nitpicky thing, but I have most of the time not understood why people name their companies different than their product. The only reason for it in my mind is if TBM Labs produces other products too eventually, right? If so, I would probably go with your product name, because in my mind, you're just splitting brand equity, right? Like you're trying to build up in all of our crazy worlds, like we're trying to remember a word. So would you rather have us remember TBM Labs or Continuum, right? I would maybe go with one, but very, very nitpicky point. Love the opening equally. And then similarly, I got a little bit confused too. Now, who is interacting with this tool in what way? So rather than going to the feature set, I think that's where I would also pick up. Maybe it's the weekly journey, or maybe it's just seeing those 4 people interact and seeing what does the clinic do? Does the parent, right, get the combined calendar? And does the school get the reporting? Or what is this? What do you do, not on a feature set, but really philosophically, right, in that market and between those 4? Before the market size, a couple points there too that I agree with. In my mind, I like it if you go to your revenue model and your pricing before you show me the market, because then I can get a better idea. Like if you're saying I'm charging $10 per parent a month, and I go, okay, you need multi-million parents to get to XYZ, blah, 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 versus if you say I'm charging $1 million per clinic a year, right? I get a little bit better of an idea of what that market looks like. And then similarly to the market sizing, so maybe interestingly for all of you too, because when I was an entrepreneur, I always struggled with market sizing. I heard the rule that anything under $1 billion market is bad and everything over $1 billion market is good. And chances are we never, for our tool specifically, we don't find a Gartner research report, right? It says this market is 4.3 billion. Yeah. So in my mind, we just made up some slides that had billions on it. Here's what market sizing actually does on my end. So overall, I think too, the market size should be what your revenue would be if you had 100% of the market. Okay. I'm guessing that's not 70 billion. Right? But maybe it is. But overall, I think fair. And here's what I do with market sizing. So as with the investor hat on, I go to, if you get 5% of your market, that's incredibly strong already. 10% might be a home run. So if somebody presents me a 2 billion market, I go to, okay, they could make 100 to 200 million revenue. If somebody presents me a 700 million market, I'll go to, they'll max out at 35 million revenue. Can be good, can be bad, right? But that's what I do with market sizing. So I do think market sizing is actually pretty important. If any of you wants to talk about that, I'm more than happy to follow up now that I've learned how you should do it. Friends was my question too. Here's the one part I disagreed on, was I love the team intros. So maybe case in point, maybe that's not part of the 5 or 6 minutes. The reason I love it is, in my mind, in Seed, we invest in the team a lot more than the business. If you asked us the biggest mistakes we made in our first fund, it was probably thinking about just the business model and how we would run it as an entrepreneur, and then going, oh wait, there's a whole nother question mark, which is, what is the entrepreneur like? What's the team like? How are they hiring? How can they hire, etc. So I personally loved like a little tidbit, and it shows me you guys are comfortable working together, you know each other, you know who brings what to the table, kind of thing. Yeah. And I'll end with maybe a question. At the landscape slide, I started getting a little nervous about, is this a 4-parted market? Do you need to sell? Investors tend to be afraid of marketplaces because you always need to put demand and supply at the same part. And I was questioning here, do you need to sell schools, then clinics, then parents, and all of them together in the same geography for this to work? So maybe you could respond to that of, how do the folks use it together?
So you're touching on our massive problem. When we first started out with this, it was more the altruistic side of how do we help parents and what's the best way we can do that, because they're carrying the burden, right? But with looking into it, it was, we can make this easier on everybody. So parents, in our mind, drives the market effect, which actually is what we're seeing. They go, I don't have to pay for this, because I shouldn't have to pay for it, because the clinical medical billing side of it is well established and it's easily tapped into. You just have to set it up right. And that's what we did. So schools will come along, because if you've got a parent that goes up to the school and they say, hey, I'm using this, you don't have to pay for your journal or anything to keep up with me anymore. Just get on this and we're all on the same page. And it'll tie into behavior plans as well, which is nitty gritty, but if you know, you know. So yeah, I hope that helps a bit.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd want to have the next meeting, right? Like, okay, like let's talk about the product and how. I do think the marketplace comment is spot on. It's like, that scared me when I saw it. I was like, oh no, this is no. Yeah, so customer acquisition, how you're going to scale. Again, like you're going to have to work on that. That's part of the seed and Series A process. But really like dialing in on retention as well. Like I've seen other apps, apps for families with children outside of this kind of context, and it's like you can get a lot of engagement and interaction and virality early, and then you see these kind of things fall off, right? It had its impact, so I want to see like how that impact is going to become sustainable. So that's To
that point,
yeah,
that's where if we were going to go on the journey, you would see where Billy and his family would go into clinic. Yeah. They've already given their information, so. Like back in the early days of daycare, you would get that piece of paper or that rushed, hey, this is what happened, this is how they slept, they went to the bathroom and they ate. Okay, go. You don't have to do that with Continuum because it's already on there. Yeah. Instead, you get to be a person. You get to walk in and say, hey, how you doing? Yeah. Instead of a rush, your life is only this. And one thing I didn't get to touch on, which now that I'm here, I'll just say it. One of our favorite things is the success. All too often with special needs, you look at it as special needs, but really all it is just developing at a different pace. So you need to celebrate the wins. Today we did this. Even though your child did it a few years ago, it doesn't matter. It's still a win. Yeah. So that's on there too.
It's like a guiding principle you could come back to, or anyone in the room. It's like show by doing is a much easier way, whether it's a 7-minute pitch or a 30-minute pitch, to get somebody to lock in. If you're explaining too much verbally, you're losing, because you're just forcing me to take an abstracted concept that you know a lot about and I don't. So that's why anyway, but really, really fascinating. Very cool.
Let's give it up for TBM.